I want to take you back to a story you tell about coin flipping.
Oh, God.
The gambling game
Yeah,
you were a
don't
kid.
ever do that. I was at a friend's house in Mexico, and I was 19.
Grew up well off.
Yes, I did. But one of the guests there said, let's flip coins. We'll start at $1, and we'll just double it. I thought, well, yeah, fine. Let's see, double it. I mean, at some point, if you're just doubling a coin, it's got to come. It's got to come your way. Well, it got to 2, 4, 6, 8. It got to $32,000, and I thought, I got to stop.
And you're how old then?
19. And so I stopped. I went home, and I said to my father, I said, you have to give me this money. He said, I'm not giving you money for some card sharp, some con man who cheated you somehow, some way. And I said, well, it's a point of honor. He said, there's no honor among thieves, et cetera. And so I went to my mother, and she gave me the money.
You wrote, the lack of money or the accumulation of it has never been anything but distantly vague in my mind.
Yeah, I know how that sounds, and I mean, I know that it's like, probably people skeptical about it, but it is true. And I don't know that it's true for everyone in the circumstances that I grew up in. And my circumstances were not that of my friends, who all had allowances, who all had chores and duties and things like that. Whereas I had no chores, I had no allowance, I just got stuff whenever I needed it.
Yeah.
And so the money has always been abstract to me. It's just the way I don't think about it as an animate thing. Now, it's not that I don't like it. What a fool would I be? It's not that I didn't want to. I didn't ever want to accumulate it. It was a byproduct of whatever I did. I never made a decision in my life about money, where money was the criteria for making the decision.
What do you think you learned from your parents?
Well, my parents were really nice people, decent, kind, and in their sphere of experience, thoughtful. But because they had no parenting, they had no clue how to be parents. I kind of grew up in a plush forest, like alone. Also, my older brother, was a drug addict from a very early age. And so any attention they had for parenting really wasn't parenting, but was getting him out of trouble here and there.
You made a comment moments ago about allowances and curfews, and I want to read a quote you wrote in your book. I never had a curfew. My friends all had allowances and chores, but I was just given whatever money I needed, and there were never any disciplinary actions to deprive me if I went astray. You went on to say, I watched my friends' characters grow as their parents gave them responsibilities. I figured I wasn't worth my parents bothering with any character building. Why was there that feeling then?
Why did I feel that way? Well, I felt that way because they were not really interested in what I was doing or what I was about. We had...
Didn't go to the high school graduation.
We had a very formal relationship. Of course you go to your children's graduation. But in my family, it would have been utterly crazy under the circumstances for them to come because they were just disengaged from my life as I was disengaged from theirs. Once I became, my mother definitely 0 to 3 or 4 took care of me, like a little Barbie doll, I guess, or pre-Barbie doll. But once I got actually probably walking and yapping, talking, there was no interest. So I didn't have any of those satellites in my life. So I was just on my own from a very, very early, I would say from the age of 7.
And one can only imagine the ways in which that influences a young person, but you wrote, what paralyzed me was that I didn't believe I deserved a future.
Yeah.
And what do you think the genesis of that was?
That was the dysfunction of my family to a degree, and the fact that I was, even though I had friends all my life, since, probably since 5 or 6 years old, and I had orbits outside of my family that were family-like, that I kind of pretended to, I was alone, and I think probably very lonely, and seemingly very self-sufficient. My biology was very strong, and without that, I'm sure I would have collapsed at various moments.
You made a couple comments which almost seemed like contradictions. You said back then you would find a shortcut around any hard work you could do, yet you would read literally everything in sight.
I'm very superficial and very transparent. And so I always did what I wanted to do. I wanted to read. Mm-hmm. I was voracious from the earliest age of reading. And I was also able to avoid what I didn't want to do. And I hated school. I always hated school. I don't like being taught to. I'd rather, one of the reasons I love reading is it's me pulling it rather than it pulling me. I probably didn't start cutting school as a regular scheduled thing until I went to high school. For sure, I would never go to school on Mondays and Fridays, and Wednesdays were optional. And I was very clever about getting out of trouble and living the life I wanted to lead.
I wanted to ask you about your brother, though. How many cars did he go through by the time
my God.
he was in, I think, his
my
early
brother,
20s?
my parents, again, clueless about this. Oh, who knows? My brother was addicted to heroin at the age of, I don't know, certainly no later than 15.
Why do you feel like you knew who he was by the time you were 9 years old? And that never changed?
Because he was very sadistic to me. He clearly was troubled probably from chemistry from birth or whatever, undiagnosed something. Who would ever know this? I would never know.
You
but
said
he was
gruesomely and violently abusive.
He was abusive to me, really, sadistic to me.
Like how so?
He wouldn't beat me up, but if there was an object that he could throw at me, he would throw and aim for my head. He was sadistic to me. And that happened about 8 or 9, my age, 8 or 9. He was 4 years older than me.
And stuff that could really hurt you.
Oh, yeah. My brother was very smart. He would only do damage that couldn't be seen.
What do you mean?
Well, in other words, he would not do something where I would have some big gash down my head where somebody would say, around the house would say, oh my God, we better send him to the hospital. Yeah. But he was quite sadistic.
How did he go from marijuana to heroin so fast? I
don't know. I'll never know. It was certainly, this is again in the 50s in Beverly Hills, which was hardly, some den of iniquity. But my parents, in dealing with this, so I don't know how he became addicted to heroin or where, but he certainly was absolutely by the time he was 14 or 15 for sure. I think it could be even earlier. But anyway, my parents, whenever he would get off drugs, which through various methods, means, whatever, they would get him off drugs. So when he got to be 16, he got a car. And then from 16 to 25, which is when, 26, I think at least 10, maybe 15 different cars came and went as he would get these cars. He would either crash them or sell them or whatever for drugs. Then he'd get off drugs. My parents would be so overjoyed they'd get him a new car. It became like the joke of the house.
He passed away at a young age because...
He got shot. He got killed at the age of 36.
Think the bitterness you mentioned you have towards him will ever dissipate?
I don't know if it's bitterness. I don't really think it's bitterness. I think it's kind of solid state. I hated what he did to my parents. I didn't really care much what he did to me, but I really hated what he did. He robbed my parents of 20 years of their life. My wife, Dion, has constantly said to me, forgive him, you must forgive him, you must forgive him.
Right.
And I say, sorry, that's a lack in me, I can't forgive him.